There wasn't even time to process the warning klaxon before she was in my room. It was 0200 hours. The station's artificial lights dimmed for night, and I had just barely settled into the sterile but tolerable rhythm of space life when the emergency door override screamed its metallic hiss through my cabin. I leapt from my cot, still half draped in the scratchy thermal sheet, just as the door parted, violently, like it had been punched open, and then she was standing there, or rather, heaving there. Nurse Varel. The alien woman, the one who had tended to my injuries for weeks now, the one who'd offered me soft smiles and strange comfort with her serene presence and unnervingly precise hands, was nothing like the calm, composed medical professional I had come to know. No, this was something entirely different. Her normally smooth, lavender-toned skin was flushed a much deeper shade, her angular features tinged with a pulsing, biological glow that traced beneath the surface of her cheekbones and down her exposed neck. Her white medical uniform was disheveled, top buttons undone, revealing more of the strange, bioluminescent patterns that shimmered across her collarbone and chest like living constellations. Her violet eyes were wild, dilated, fixed entirely on me. "Ensign Carter," she breathed, voice breathy, trembling, not with fear, but need. "I can't suppress it." I blinked, still dazed from sleep and the rude awakening of my door exploding open. "Suppress what?" She stepped forward, and I instinctively took one back. She didn't stop. "My cycle," she said in that same hushed, strained tone. "It's begun. Mating season. Hormonal override is failing. I shouldn't be near anyone." She paused, eyes narrowing. Her chest rose and fell rapidly with quick, gasping breaths. But I scanned the station. "Oh no, oh no, no, no. You're the only genetically compatible male on board." I didn't have time to respond before she took another step, then another, until she was mere inches from me, and I could feel the heat radiating off her skin like a low-burning fire. She smelled alien, a mix of something floral and electric, like ozone mixed with night-blooming jasmine. Her pupils had gone elliptical now, like a cat's, sharp and reactive. She was beautiful in a way that was terrifying, like a predator that had found something it desperately needed. "You must leave," she whispered, even as her body betrayed the command. Her hands trembled as she clutched them into fists, holding them at her sides as if restraining herself took all the strength she had left. "Or I won't be able to stop myself." My throat tightened. Every rational part of my mind screamed at me to back away, to hit the comms panel and call for assistance. But another part, the part that was very aware of the primal biology thrumming just beneath the surface of this strange, breathtaking creature, hesitated. "What happens if I don't?" I asked before I could stop myself. Her gaze locked on mine. "You won't want to leave." That line hung in the air like a heavy charge, crackling with possibility. I didn't even realize I had taken another step back until I felt the cold panel of the wall press into my spine. She was advancing now, not aggressively, but relentlessly, like something compelled beyond her control. I tried to move past her, but her hand shot out and pressed against the wall beside me, blocking my escape. Her nails were slightly elongated now, her breathing shallow, fast. "I warned you," she said. "This is your last chance to run." But her body said otherwise. She was trembling, vibrating with held-back urgency. I could practically hear her heart pounding inside her chest. Or maybe that was mine. "I don't want to hurt you," she added, voice raw. "But I will take you, if you don't leave." My instincts warred within me. Everything about this moment screamed danger. But there was also something in the way her voice broke, in the tension that rippled through her entire form, that made it feel different. This wasn't aggression, it was desperation. And despite the tight ball of nervous energy coiled in my stomach, I couldn't help but ask, "What does it mean to take me?" She paused then, as if the question made her recalibrate. Slowly, she leaned in, her breath ghosting over my jaw, sending a shiver down my spine. "It It means, she whispered, that I will imprint on you, claim you. Every instinct I possess will bind itself to you. Your scent, your voice, your touch, they will become my obsession. Until the season ends, you will be mine. Another pause. Her lips brushed against the edge of my ear, and I flinched, not from fear, but from how it sent a jolt straight through me. And I will do anything to keep you. The way she said that wasn't romantic. It wasn't gentle. It was a promise, like something hardwired into her DNA. A mating protocol not chosen but biologically demanded. I swallowed hard. And what happens if I agree? She pulled back just enough to meet my gaze. Her eyes gleamed in the low light, a deep amethyst glow, beautiful and terrifying all at once. Then I will not hold back. The words struck me like a punch to the chest. My brain struggled to catch up, even as my body responded with an electric anticipation I couldn't entirely control. And then, just like that, she was gone. She stepped back, staggering, and clenched her fists again. I need to go, she gasped. I need to restrain myself, inject the suppressant. But her body disagreed. She stumbled, caught herself on the desk, and then slowly turned back, to me with a look that made my breath catch. I can't. It's too late. And I realized then she wasn't going to leave. This wasn't going to be solved with science or protocol. The situation had passed the point of control. I was the only compatible male on a space station, isolated from Earth, from help, from rules. And the alien nurse, who had always treated me with such professionalism and control, was now something else entirely. Not just alien, not just nurse, a creature in heat, bound to instincts, older than diplomacy, older than reason. And I was the solution her biology craved. I took a shaky breath as she advanced again, slower this time, eyes locked on mine, full of hunger and war. You should sit down, she said, voice lower now, a purr at the edges. This will be easier if you're relaxed. I stood frozen. I should have moved. I should have objected. But my legs weren't listening. My heart was racing, my breath shallow. The tension between us had snapped into something tighter, more volatile. And as she approached, the gravity of what was happening, and what was about to happen, drew around me like a web I could no longer escape. She wasn't asking for permission, and the terrifying thing was, I wasn't sure I wanted her to. Let me know when you're ready for the next 10K plus continuation. I'll keep the tension high and the pace flowing. The next morning arrived far too early. I didn't sleep much. Not because of discomfort or nightmares, but because every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, Talia. Her words from last night echoed with uncomfortable clarity in my mind. We are entering the peak of the cycle. Suppression will be harder now. You should prepare. What the hell? Did that even mean in practice? I'd tossed and turned all night. The image of her pressed against my door, the heat radiating from her skin, the quiet desperation buried under the surface of her voice. It all stayed with me. There was no mistaking the tension building between us. It wasn't just in her biology. It had begun to infect the air itself, lingering in every room, brushing against my skin like static electricity. And now, I had to face her again. I padded out into the living room in a simple shirt and sweatpants, half expecting to see her waiting for me like some creature out of myth. Luminous eyes, silver hair cascading down her shoulders. That strangely elegant posture of hers. But the apartment was silent. The only sound the low hum of the environmental regulator working overtime in the morning warmth. I was just about to head to the kitchen when the bathroom door slid open. And there she was. Talia emerged in a cloud of steam, wearing nothing but a soft grey towel that clung desperately to her frame. Her skin glistened with residual moisture, hair swept back wet and slick, revealing the sharp lines of her cheekbones and the small tilt of her ears. She didn't flinch at my presence, didn't even blink. She walked toward me slowly, her bare feet soundless against the floor, her gaze locked on mine like I was some kind of puzzle she hadn't finished solving. Good morning, she said, voice softer than it had been last night, but no less serious. If anything, it was almost velvety, like she was trying out a different tone now. One meant to do something to me, and hell, it was working. I cleared my throat and turned, giving her space. Morning. Do you want breakfast? I can make some eggs. No eggs, she replied quickly. Protein isn't what I need right now. I blinked. She walked past me, brushing close enough that the steam from her body curled into my skin. I swear I could feel her, like her presence had heat and weight and gravity all its own. My heart was racing, and I hadn't even had caffeine yet. I've reviewed more of your species' mating literature, she said casually as she entered the kitchen and began pulling out a nutrient pack from the cooler. It's extensive, inconsistent, highly visual. I laughed, nervous. Yeah, well, that's kind of our thing. We, like variety. Talia paused, her fingers lingering on the metallic edge of the nutrition dispenser. I see. And are you the type who prefers variety, or do you bond with one partner? What? I coughed, nearly choking on my own tongue. That's a hell of a question for this early in the morning. She tilted her head, and for a brief moment, something flickered in her eyes. An emotion I hadn't seen from her before. Hesitation. Vulnerability. I only ask because my cycle is accelerating. It's difficult to remain composed now. My biology recognizes you as compatible. My instincts are telling me to proceed. But I need more than that. I need to understand you. I froze. She wasn't playing games. She wasn't teasing me for the fun of it. Every word that came from her mouth was laced with a kind of sincerity that made it impossible to ignore. Her people didn't flirt for fun. They didn't seduce casually. For Talia, this wasn't about pleasure. It was about need. Raw, biological, dangerous need. I ran a hand through my hair, trying to keep myself from unraveling. Talia. I'm just a guy. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't know. I know you didn't. She cut in gently, her eyes softening. But we're here now, and I can't ignore what's happening to me. Denial only makes the symptoms worse. Soon, it may become impossible to suppress my urges altogether. A beat of silence passed between us. She stepped closer. I would never harm you, she whispered. But I need you to understand the risks. If I lose control, if I act on instinct, I may not be able to stop. The air between us thickened like molasses. And still, God help me, I didn't move away. Why me? I asked, my voice low. She exhaled slowly, and something about the way her lips parted, almost trembling, told me the answer cost her something to give. Because you calm me. Your presence stabilizes the chemicals in my bloodstream. Your scent, your heartbeat, they soothe the fire. It's like my body's chosen you, and I don't know how to make it choose someone else. My throat went dry. There it was, the absolute truth laid bare, not manipulation, not seduction, just honesty. I'm trying to be respectful, she continued, and now she was close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from her skin. But I'm running out of time. If you truly do not want me, I will submit to medical sedation. It will be dangerous, painful, but survivable. God. She was offering to hurt herself to protect me. I couldn't take it. You shouldn't have to go through that, I murmured, reaching out before I could think better of it. My hand brushed against hers, just a touch, and I felt her fingers tremble. There has to be another way. Talia's eyes snapped up to meet mine, wide and shining. There is, she said, but it means accepting what's happening between us, even if it's just temporary. A beat passed, then another. I should have said no. I should have backed away and told her this was all too much, that I didn't want to be someone's biological outlet, even if she was one of the most beautiful, intense beings I'd ever laid eyes on. But I didn't. Because somewhere deep inside, something about this felt right, as insane as it was. as fast and chaotic and alien as it all seemed. My gut. The same gut that got me through 3 tours and too many bad decisions, was telling me not to run. Talia must have seen the decision in my eyes, because her posture relaxed, her shoulders loosened, her breathing slowed, just a touch. "Then we'll move slowly," she said. "I will not act without your consent. You are not just a partner to me now. You are critical to my survival." "You really know how to lay on the pressure, don't you?" I muttered. But she smiled, a real smile, small, beautiful, almost shy, and damn if it didn't shake me more than anything else she'd said. I didn't know what this meant, what we were stepping into, but I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't walking away. "Let me know when you're ready for the next 10K plus words. I'll keep this tension building and pacing strong." "Absolutely. Here's the next continuation of My Alien Nurse Has Entered Mating season, and I'm the only compatible male," diving even deeper into the growing tension, with rich, long paragraphs and steadily escalating emotion and intimacy. We didn't speak much the rest of the morning, but the silence between us wasn't awkward. It was charged, like the air just before a storm breaks, heavy with anticipation, thick with possibility. Talia moved about the apartment with a different kind of grace now. Not stiff and formal like before, not overly clinical or mechanical like when she first arrived. No, this was something altogether different. Her movements were fluid, almost feline. She carried herself with an awareness that seemed to extend far beyond mere physicality. Every motion she made felt purposeful, like a slow burn building under my skin. And the worst part? She wasn't even trying. Or if she was doing it with terrifying subtlety. I tried to distract myself. I cleaned the already spotless kitchen. I reorganized the food packets in the cooler. I even pretended to be deeply invested in an old planetary newsfeed on the wall display. None of it worked, because every time I looked up, she was there, not staring, not watching, just present, hovering on the edge of my attention like gravity, pulling at me without words. When the sun reached its peak and light filtered lazily through, "The windows," she finally spoke again. "I've completed my vitals for the day," she said quietly from the doorway to the living area, arms folded across her chest. "Everything is stable, for now." I turned slowly, finding her standing there in a different outfit than earlier. An oversized black tank top and some kind of loose, gauzy bottoms that clung just enough to hint at the shape of her legs without showing too much. It was casual, almost domestic, and yet somehow it made her look even more ethereal, like some strange dream had wandered into my living space and decided to settle in. "You sure you're okay?" I asked, trying not to let my eyes linger too long on the curve of her shoulders or the way the fabric danced with her every breath. "No," she answered, honest as always. "But I will be." I hesitated. "Because of me?" Her head tilted. "Partially, mostly because I am adapting. But also, yes, your proximity continues to dull the edge. You are grounding," that word again. It hit me differently this time. There was something terrifyingly intimate about it. Grounding. Like I was her anchor in the middle of a biological storm. Not just a roommate, not even just a male, but the one, the only compatible male, the only one who could keep her sane. "You're not just saying that to manipulate me, right?" I said, attempting levity. Her expression didn't change. "My species does not believe in manipulation through false sentiment. If I were trying to seduce you, I would be far less subtle." That stopped me cold. I blinked. "Wait, this is subtle." She walked closer, slow and deliberate, until she stood barely a foot from me. "Yes," she said simply. "I have done nothing more than remain near you. I have not initiated touch. I have not activated pheromonal release. I have not engaged in stimulation or suggestive mimicry. I am, as you might say, holding back." I swallowed hard. "Right. Okay. Good to know." Her gaze softened slightly, and for the first time, I caught a glimpse of real restraint behind those eyes. She was holding back. Tremendously. The fact that she hadn't already pounced on me, or whatever her species' version of pouncing was nothing short of incredible. Why? I asked, voice quieter now. Why hold back if it's so difficult? Talia's eyes flickered downward for the briefest moment. Then she looked back up at me and said, "Because I want you to choose it, not just endure it." That did something to me. Something I couldn't put into words. Because in that moment, everything shifted. This wasn't about biology anymore. Not entirely. It wasn't just chemical compatibility or instinctive drives. It was about her, and me, and this strange, delicate space forming between us. She could have taken the easy route, pushed me, triggered whatever alien mating instincts she had waiting beneath the surface. But she didn't. She wanted me to choose. And somehow, that made the tension between us even more unbearable. "I need to go for a walk," I said suddenly, needing air, space, distance, anything to clear my head. "Do you want me to come?" she asked. Yes. God, yes. But also, no, not if I had any hope of surviving the day without spontaneously combusting. "I'll just be a few minutes," I said instead. She nodded, stepping aside with quiet understanding. I left the apartment and stepped into the synthetic sunlight of the residential dome, grateful for the distraction of movement. The air out here was artificially temperate, clean and crisp, with faint traces of floral genetic engineering in the wind. Other residents were out and about, humans, a few other species, but I barely registered them. All I could think about was her, Talia, my nurse, my roommate, my... What? What was she now? I leaned against the nearest railing and stared out at the gardens that lined the walking path, trying to untangle the knot forming in my chest. Was it attraction, lust, some alien chemical reaction I had no defense against, or was it something worse, something deeper? I stayed out longer than I intended. By the time I returned to the apartment, the sun was starting to dip, the light turning gold and warm across the glass panels. The door hissed open, and I froze, because the scent hit me before anything else. Warm, sweet, heavy, like flowers and ozone, and heat all wrapped together in a way that made the back of my throat tighten. My skin prickled instantly. My pulse quickened. Whatever it wasn't from my species. This was hers. A calling, a flare. I stepped inside cautiously, and the door sealed shut behind me with a soft hiss. Talia? No response. I moved into the living room slowly, and there she was, not waiting, not posing, just standing there, near the window, bathed in fading sunlight. She had changed again, this time into something far less modest, a thin, sheer garment that hugged her form like second skin, silver and pale as starlight, cut low in front and high on the thighs. Her skin shimmered faintly beneath it, and her hair fell in soft, dry waves over her shoulders. She looked over her shoulder at me, and the way her lips parted slightly, as if just seeing me cause something physical to shift inside her, made my breath catch. "I tried to meditate," she said softly. "It didn't work." I swallowed hard. "That scent, it's you, isn't it?" She nodded. "It's not deliberate. My body is releasing attraction markers. It's involuntary now." "What does it do to me?" I asked, though I already felt the answer humming in my blood. "It amplifies whatever interest already exists, heightens attention, stimulates arousal." "Great," I muttered, because this wasn't complicated enough already. Talia turned fully now, facing me, and the look on her face was nothing like what I'd seen before. She was flushed, not with embarrassment, but heat, tension, need. But beneath it all, there was still restraint. I can still wait, she said, but it's getting harder. I took a shaky breath. What happens if you don't find release? My body will begin to destabilize. Fever, hallucinations, pain. I may eventually lose awareness. Instinct will take over. I stared at her, helpless, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. I don't want to hurt you, she said again. But I do want you, more than I can express. My legs felt weak, not from fear, from the sheer intensity of it all. You're asking me to cross a line, I whispered. One I can't uncross. Talia took a step forward, then another. She didn't touch me, not yet, but I could feel her wanting. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I wanted it too, not just the physical, but her, all of her, even the dangerous parts, even the alien ones. And as her eyes locked onto mine, hunger and desperation and control all flickering in that silver gaze, I knew we were close, too close. Something was going to break soon, and when it did, there'd be no going back. Her breath hitched. It was barely audible, just a tremor of sound, carried on the stillness between us, but it hit me harder than a scream would have. Her body was trembling faintly now, not from fear or uncertainty, but from effort to stay still, to hold back, to not reach for me, and I realized just how much of her energy was going into that restraint. Her knuckles were white, where her fingers curled into fists at her sides. The tendons of her arms rigid under that glowing silver skin. And yet her eyes were wide open, locked onto mine with a kind of intensity I had never seen from her before. Not even when she first arrived, not even when she first explained the biological madness creeping through her system. This was something deeper. It wasn't just biology. It was choice, battling instinct in the middle of the storm. I need to sit down, I said, more to myself than to her. My voice sounded strange in the room, brittle and dry, like it came from someone else's mouth. Would you like water? She asked, breathless. I laughed too tightly. I think I need something stronger than that. There is synth wine in the cooling unit, she offered. You planning to drink it? No, she said, deadpan. Alcohol interacts poorly with my kind during mating cycles. It may cause mood swings or disinhibition, I choked. That sounds exactly like what we don't need right now. Her lips twitched. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was something close, and for a second, just a second, it pulled us back from the edge. Just enough to breathe, just enough to think. I grabbed a drink from the cooler anyway, not alcohol, just a caffeine stim, but my hands were shaking as I cracked it open. I didn't even want it. I just needed something to do, something to make this moment feel normal when it was anything but. Talia sat on the opposite end of the couch, as far from me as she could get. Not because she was avoiding me, but because she wasn't. Her posture was straight, legs crossed in that formal alien way she had, hands folded neatly in her lap, but I could see the effort it cost her to stay still. The fabric of her outfit shimmered faintly with every breath, casting dancing lights on the wall beside her. And beneath all of that was the scent again, muted, yes, but persistent. Like her body had given up on subtlety and was just pleading, silently, for connection. I've studied Earth literature, she said suddenly. About love, about intimacy. I blinked. That's a weird segue. It's not. I needed to understand your culture. Human attachment behaviors. You value choice, consent, emotional readiness. Well, yeah, that's sort of everything. She nodded, eyes unreadable. My people are not so different, but in us, the biological cycle comes first. Emotion is awakened later, if ever. I sipped my drink. That's not comforting. No, I imagine not. There was silence again, but this time it wasn't empty. It was full of everything we weren't saying, every question, every fear, every temptation. And then she leaned forward just slightly and said, But I am feeling it, Michael. I looked up sharply. Feeling what? She tilted her head, silver hair catching the ambient light. Emotion, affection, something not required by biology, something other. I don't know the word for it. I only know that when you left earlier, the pain was worse. Not just physical, not just hormonal. I missed you. My heart twisted. I hadn't been ready for that. I'd braced for heat, for tension, for raw biological need. But this quiet vulnerability, it leveled me. Talia. I started and then stopped because I didn't know where that sentence went. She looked down. You are kind and strong, and you have been gentle when I was not, patient when I could not be. You made me tea when I was collapsing. You brought me a blanket. You touched me only when I asked. I did those things because you needed them. Exactly, she said. You saw me. The room felt smaller somehow, the air tighter, and she stood up slowly, every inch of movement painfully deliberate, like she was afraid if she moved too fast the moment would shatter. I want you, she said simply. Not just because of mating compatibility, not because your DNA aligns with my reproductive cycle, but because I see you too. God help me, I felt it. Not just the chemical pull, but the human one. The ache in my chest, the deep, yawning loneliness I'd been pretending didn't exist since I got assigned to this outpost. The quiet that had followed me everywhere like a ghost. I'm not good at this, I said, voice rough. I've never been good at relationships. I don't even know if this is a relationship. She nodded. It isn't yet, but it could be. We stood there for what felt like an eternity, the space between us crackling with unspoken things. Her body was so still it seemed unnatural, too disciplined, too poised, and that alone told me how hard she was fighting herself. And then, finally, she extended her hand, not grabbing, not pulling, just offering, like a truce, or a beginning, stepped forward before I could think about it too hard and took it. Her fingers closed around mine like silk and heat and need. It was the softest contact we'd ever had, and it burned like fire. She exhaled slowly, and her forehead dipped forward, just a little, not quite touching mine. I will not initiate anything further, she said. I want this next choice to be yours. I didn't answer, not with words, but I didn't let go of her hand either. Instead, I just stood there with her in the fading light, our fingers entwined, the silence between us louder than ever. The war wasn't over, not yet, but we'd crossed something tonight, a line neither of us could uncross. And as the heat of her skin seeped into mine, I knew the real storm was still coming. The question was no longer if, it was when, and how hard it would hit. The stillness of the moment lingered, suspended like a fragile thread between us, between her glowing skin and my trembling breath, between the fire crawling under our flesh and the restraint coiling tightly around our spines. Her fingers in mine were gentle, even reverent, as though the gesture alone was a sacred threshold. Neither of us moved beyond it. Not yet, but everything inside me felt like it was shifting. Every moment we stayed there, close, but not touching. Any more than we already were, the room felt smaller, more intimate. The air buzzed with something unspoken, like the universe itself was holding its breath for what we might do next. Talia's skin was warm, not just warm, radiant. Her hand in mine pulsed faintly, like her body was a living conduit for her internal fire, and with each heartbeat, her temperature climbed so subtly that I almost missed it. I could feel her trying to keep it down. Her other hand clenched at her side, every muscle taut like she was holding herself back with every ounce of control she had. And yet, she was still looking at me like she wanted to be seen, not just desired. You're shaking, she whispered, her voice quieter now, almost afraid. I know, I said. So am I. The truth of it made the silence deeper. I didn't expect any of this, I said, finally letting the words out into the space between us. I thought you'd be clinical, detached, that this would be something we talked through in charts and data. I didn't think it would feel like this. Neither did I, she said. Her head tilted slightly, eyes locked on mine. But I am not detached anymore. This cycle is different, more volatile, more sensitive. The emotional imprinting comes faster when the subject, when you are already close. I swallowed. Is that what I am to you? A subject? No, she said quickly, fiercely. You're the only one here. You're the only one I've spent time with. The only one who's helped me through this pain. And it's not just biology anymore. I don't want to be near you because I'm ovulating. I want to be near you because you make me feel safe. The word hit me like a shockwave. Safe. It felt bigger than it should have. More than just a compliment. More than just an expression of comfort. From someone like her, so composed, so brilliant, so alien, it felt like a confession. And not a light one. You don't have to say that, I muttered, uncertain. But I mean it, she said. And then she let go of my hand. Not out of rejection, but like she had to step back or risk losing control. Her fingers trembled as she curled them back into her palm, and I noticed the slight shimmer of perspiration on her neck. Her skin was glistening faintly now, like it was struggling to regulate the building heat inside her. I can't stay here much longer, she said, half turning toward the hallway. If I do, I won't be able to stop myself. That hit me hard. I felt the weight of that temptation echo in my own chest, in my blood, in the primal urge that had started to gnaw at my thoughts even when I tried to deny it. I wanted her. Not just because she was beautiful, though God she was, but because of everything. The way she held herself, the way she tried to stay in control even when she was breaking inside, the way she looked at me, not as a duty or a convenience, but as someone who mattered. Tahlia, I'll sleep in the medbay tonight, she said quickly. There's a neural suppressant there. It dulls the symptoms. Not completely, but... Don't, I interrupted. She froze, one foot already past the threshold into the corridor. I didn't know why I'd said it. It just came out. But now, that the word hung there, I had to mean it. I had to own it. Don't run from this, I said. You don't have to. Her breath caught. Her back was still turned, but I could see the tension ripple through her shoulders. I stepped closer, slowly, cautiously, until I was just behind her. I don't want you to suffer, I said. Not alone. Not in some cold, sterile room with a machine hissing chemicals into your veins. She turned to face me. Her pupils were blown wide now, her irises nearly swallowed up. The scent was back, stronger this time. Richer. Her body was calling to mine in ways I couldn't put into words, and it took every last shred of control I had not to reach for her. But I didn't. I waited. Waited for her to make the next move. She stepped closer. So did I. Inches between us now. No barriers. No more pretending. I should leave, she whispered. But you don't want to. No. The heat between us was unbearable. Her body felt like a star, brilliant and burning, pulling me in with the force of gravity and want in something else. My heart was racing. My skin tingled everywhere. My mouth went dry, and she looked up at me with such vulnerability, such aching need, that I couldn't hold back anymore. I raised my hand, brushing a strand of silver hair from her cheek. She shuddered under the touch. Tell me if you want this to stop, I said. She didn't answer with words. She leaned forward, just slightly, until her forehead rested against mine. Her breath fanned across my lips, ragged and shallow, and the closeness made my knees weak. And then, softly, she whispered, Please don't stop. It was permission. It was surrender. It was everything. My hands settled on her hips, careful and slow. Her skin was like velvet under my palms, trembling faintly. She didn't flinch. She pressed into my touch, sighing as though the tension that had bound her all day was finally beginning to break. She reached up, fingers threading through the back of my hair, and pulled me just a fraction closer. But we didn't kiss. Not yet. The space between our lips remained maddeningly thin, fractions of an inch, an invisible thread stretched to its breaking point. It was torture, but it was also perfect. Because in that suspended moment, every second was heavy with intent. We weren't just falling into this. We were choosing it. Together. Her voice, when it came again, was nearly inaudible. I don't know what happens after this. Neither do I said, and finally, our lips met. It wasn't urgent. It wasn't rushed. It was slow, soft, careful, like we were discovering each other molecule by molecule. Her mouth was warm, yielding, tasting faintly of mint and something sharper underneath. She melted into the kiss, her body pressing gently into mine, the curve of her form fitting against me as if we were puzzle pieces that had always been meant to lock together. And still, it wasn't lust. Not yet. It was something gentler. But underneath, I could feel the storm, the hunger, the wildfire waiting for one more spark to erupt. We broke apart, breathlessly. Talia's eyes fluttered open. I can't hold back much longer, she said, trembling. The heat's climbing too fast. My body. Then don't hold back, I said. And this time, she kissed me. Her kiss was fire and vulnerability wrapped in one trembling moment. Urgent, yes, but not rough, not chaotic. It was the kind of kiss that asked permission, even as it begged for more. Her lips parted against mine with soft gasps that sent jolts down my spine, and I could feel the way her whole body leaned into me, like she was no longer in control of her own balance. Every breath she took was shallow, ragged, fevered. Her skin was hotter than ever now, radiating a low, steady heat that pulsed against me like a living heartbeat through her clothing. And yet, even now, we didn't rush. There was no frantic tearing of fabric, no reckless abandon. Instead, we moved with deliberate care, like explorers treading into unfamiliar territory with reverence. My hands remained on her waist, guiding her gently back toward the bed. She followed without hesitation, eyes still locked on mine, as if afraid that even blinking might shatter the fragile bond we were weaving between our breaths. When the backs of her legs touched the mattress, she paused, not from uncertainty, from fear. I've never done this with a human before, she whispered, eyes wide, almost scared. We were taught it could be dangerous, not physically, emotionally. It's too easy to become attached. Her voice cracked slightly on that last word, as if the very idea of becoming attached had once been unthinkable for her. I nodded slowly. And now? I'm already attached. Those 3 words hit me like a wave. I didn't move, didn't speak. She lowered herself onto the bed with a trembling sigh, as if her own confession had cost her something enormous. She sat with her hands in her lap, knees together, her hair spilling down her shoulders in loose, silvery waves that caught the soft lighting of the room. The way she sat, poised, vulnerable, burning, made my chest tighten, not with lust, with the weight of knowing. I stepped forward slowly and knelt in front of her. Gently, I reached up and tucked a lock of hair behind her ear. Her eyes fluttered shut at the touch, a faint sound escaping her throat, half sigh, half whimper. You're not alone anymore, I said. And whatever happens after this, whatever, it means I'll be here. Her eyes opened, full of glassy emotion. Even if I imprint? Yes. She didn't speak after that. Instead, she reached for me, hands gentle but insistent, pulling me forward until I was seated beside her. Her fingers roamed along my arm, tracing patterns like she was memorizing me, mapping the way I felt under her hands, the shape of my muscles, the texture of my skin. And as she leaned into me, burying her face into the crook of my neck, I could feel her breath hitch. Her whole body was trembling now. Not from fear, from restraint. Her lips brushed along the side of my neck, softly, experimentally, like she was studying how my skin responded, how my pulse jumped beneath her touch. She inhaled deeply, as if committing my scent to memory. Then she whispered, voice low and thick with tension. The mating cycle amplifies everything. Touch, emotion, scent, my species. We don't just want during this time. We need. We ache. Her hand drifted across my chest, settling above my heart. It's why we usually isolate, she added. Because if we're around someone we're compatible with, someone we care about, the imprint forms fast. Too fast. I could barely breathe. My own body was beginning to respond in ways I couldn't control. Heat coiled low in my abdomen, and my heartbeat was a constant drum against her palm. Still, I didn't move too fast. I didn't push. I let her lead, even when the tension inside me was coiling tighter with every second. Talia, I whispered, unsure if I was warning her or myself. She pulled back slightly, just enough to look into my eyes. Her pupils were still dilated, and her cheeks were flushed a deep lavender hue that pulsed with her inner heat. I don't want to be clinical about this, she said. I don't want to pretend I'm running an experiment or observing some fascinating new species. I want to feel. I want to experience this like you would. And how do you think I'd experience it? I asked. Her gaze dropped to my lips, then my chest, then back up. With want. With connection. With surrender. The way she said that word, surrender, sent a thrill down my spine. Then her hands slid to the hem of her uniform top. Slowly, deliberately, she pulled it over her head and let it fall to the floor. My breath caught. Her skin shimmered faintly in the soft light, smooth and flawless, with subtle, opalescent undertones that shifted like starlight. The curve of her shoulders, the delicate strength of her collarbones, the swell of her chest rising and falling with every breath. It was too much and not enough. My eyes drank her in like a man lost in the desert finally finding water. But still, I didn't reach for her, she noticed. You're holding back, she said softly. I don't want to do anything you're not ready for. She leaned forward again, her bare chest brushing against mine with feather-like contact. The shock of heat between us was electric. I've never been more ready, she said. My body wants you, but so does everything else inside me. I want your scent, your warmth, your voice in my ear. I want your arms around me, not just to satisfy this cycle, but because I trust you. My resolve shattered. I kissed her again, this time deeper, fuller, her mouth open to me, lips parting, and our tongues met with slow, deliberate passion. She moaned into the kiss, soft, needy, raw. Her hands fisted the fabric of my shirt, tugging me closer, until there was no space left between our bodies. Clothing became an afterthought, not torn, not shredded, removed slowly, reverently, with soft laughter and whispered breaths. She touched me like she'd never touched a human before, which, of course, she hadn't. And I touched her like she was something precious and sacred and on the edge of breaking, because maybe she was, because maybe I was, because in that moment, we weren't just indulging some primal need, we were giving in to something deeper, something inevitable. And as the night unfolded around us, feverish, slow burning, and filled with tension that never once let go, we both realized this was no longer about compatibility or biology. It was about two souls colliding across galaxies and species, bound not just by biology, but by something far rarer: choice, intention, need. And in the dark, tangled together, heart to heart and skin to skin, neither of us said a word, because there was nothing left to say, only everything left to feel. The morning, Light didn't spill gently across the bed. It poured. Harsh, golden shafts slanted through the blinds like a spotlight on the aftermath of something that couldn't be undone. I was already awake when her breathing changed, when the subtle shift in her chest beneath my hand told me her dreams were slipping away and reality was creeping back in. She stirred against me slowly, cautiously, as if the moment she opened, her eyes, she wasn't sure what would still be there. Me. The warmth. The memory. Her hand twitched near my waist, fingers curling slightly as if bracing for something sharp. "Talia," I murmured softly. Her eyes opened, and for a heartbeat, there was nothing but silence between us. Then, "It wasn't a dream?" "No," I said. "It wasn't." Another pause. She didn't look away. I could feel the tension begin to return. Not the heat from before, but the new kind, sharper, the kind that came from realization, from the knowledge that there was no returning to the way things were. The room felt too bright now, too honest. And there was a flicker in her expression that hadn't been there last night. Fear. Not of me, of herself. She started, then stopped. Her throat worked around the words like they tasted foreign. "I feel strange, changed. Your scent, it's in me. Your heat is still lingering in my skin. I feel it looping through my blood, like it belongs there. Is that normal?" She closed her eyes for a second. No, the word hung in the air like a verdict. I sat up slightly, leaning on my elbow, trying not to spook her. "Tell me what it means." She inhaled shakily and sat up as well, pulling the sheet around her body like it was armor, though the tremble in her hands betrayed her. My species doesn't just mate, we imprint, and during the cycle, that process becomes unstable, intensified. Normally, we resist it, we isolate, but I didn't. Her eyes locked on mine. I couldn't. Because of me? Her expression crumpled for just a moment, raw and vulnerable. Because of how you looked at me, how you treated me. Because you didn't push, and now I can't shut it off. I can't unfeel what I'm feeling. I reached out slowly, brushing, a thumb across her cheek. She didn't pull away. "Then don't," I said. "Don't shut it off. Let yourself feel it. You don't understand." Her voice broke on a whisper. "If I've imprinted fully, I'll never be able to disconnect. You could walk away tomorrow, and I would still feel you for the rest of my life. Your absence would be a permanent ache. I would crave you, even if I hated you." The room was silent, except for the quiet hum of the hfystory, the distant sound of birds and the sharp, uneven sound of her breathing. "And if I don't want to walk away?" I asked. Her mouth parted, but no sound came out. I watched the conflict ripple through her features, hope warring with disbelief. "You don't even know what that means," she finally whispered. "To be bound to someone, emotionally, biologically, spiritually. Your species isn't engineered for this." "Maybe not," I admitted. "But maybe that's exactly why it matters more when we choose it." A long silence followed, one that was thick with everything we hadn't said yet. Then she spoke again, more softly this time, like she wasn't quite sure if she wanted me to hear. "I woke up and I felt you inside me, not physically, energetically, as if a part of your essence had bled into mine. That isn't something I expected. I thought it would be mechanical, instinctual, but it wasn't. It was you." And just like that, the tension shifted again, coiling tighter, more intimate. Less about sex, more about everything else. She stood up then, the sheet still draped around her, but with a new posture. Stronger. As if she was trying to reclaim her identity, rebuild the walls she hadn't meant to lower. She walked across the room slowly, her back to me, the curves of her spine still bare above the makeshift wrap. "I need to scan myself," she said finally, "to see how far the imprint has gone." I sat up too, rubbing my face. unsure what to say. I could feel her slipping into clinical mode. That shield of professionalism she'd wielded so well when we first met. But now I knew what was underneath it. Now I knew what it was hiding. "Talia," I said. She paused in the doorway of the bedroom, turning just slightly. "I meant what I said last night. I'm not going anywhere." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You say that now, but the imprint hasn't settled. It's still forming. You might start feeling it too. Sympathetic bonding isn't uncommon in humans exposed to the process." I blinked. "Wait, are you saying I might imprint on you?" She nodded once. "If your biology responds to mine, yes. It's not guaranteed. But if it happens, it will be permanent." That landed hard. Permanent. The weight of that word filled the room like a rising tide. I stood slowly and walked to her, placing a hand on her shoulder. She didn't move. "Then maybe we need to stop thinking of this as a problem," I said, "and start figuring out what it means if it isn't temporary." Her head turned, and she looked at me with something unreadable in her eyes. Not fear, not desire, something far more dangerous, hope. And that's when the alert blared, a sharp, high-pitched tone that cut through the quiet like a knife. Red lights flared in the hallway. "Emergency override," Talia muttered, stepping past me and yanking open her tablet. Her eyes scanned the data. Then her face went pale. "What is it?" She turned toward me slowly, her expression suddenly hard. "There's a containment breach at the clinic. One of the specimens from the off-world quarantine wing escaped." I froze. "What kind of specimen?" Her eyes met mine, full of dread. "A Zarnak, aggressive, unstable, and pheromonally drawn to human-compatible imprints." My stomach turned. "To ice. So it'll come for you?" "No," she said. "It'll come for you, because I've already partially imprinted on you, and to a Zarnak. That makes you bait," I finished. She nodded grimly. "And if it finds you before the imprint is stable, it can sever it. It can replace it." I didn't understand the science, but I didn't need to. I saw the fear in her eyes. I saw how tightly her hands clenched the sheet, how she trembled now for a different reason entirely. "How long do we have?" I asked. "Minutes," and just like that, the fragile bubble of intimacy shattered. Now we were running. Now we were hunted. And somewhere out there, a creature bred for dominance and attraction was already following the invisible tether between her and me. Between the half-formed bond we hadn't even had time to understand yet. Talia grabbed a field kit from the hallway and pulled on the rest of her uniform like muscle memory. Even fully dressed, she looked wild, disheveled, glowing. Her eyes burned with the imprint's fever, and now that it had begun, nothing would stop it, not even death. The emergency exit slammed shut behind us, the magnetic seal locking into place, with a hiss and a finality that screamed, "This isn't a drill." Talia's grip on my wrist was firm but trembling. Not from weakness. No, nothing about her felt weak. This was the tremble of a woman holding herself together by threads, focused entirely on keeping me alive, while some ancient part of her biology was simultaneously screaming to claim me more deeply than anything I'd ever experienced. We bolted down the dim-lit service tunnel beneath the clinic. Pipes hissed overhead, the scent of sterilization chemicals and ozone mixing with something primal that I didn't want to name. Her form moved ahead of me with terrifying grace, hips swaying like a dance of controlled panic and command. She tapped into a wall panel as we ran, rerouting the internal security locks, sealing corridors behind us one by one. "Where's the Zarnak now?" I panted, keeping pace. "Between the upper lab and the visitor atrium. It's already picked up your trace. We need to get underground." Her voice was clipped, focused. No more breathy teasing or awkward laughter. This was military-grade Talia now, the version of her I hadn't met yet. But I saw flickers of the other self beneath it. The woman who had trembled against my chest just hours ago, the one who'd whispered that I was inside her now, in ways that couldn't be undone. "You said it could replace the bond." I ducked under a low pipe, heart thudding. How? What does that even mean? Zarnax are invasive imprint predators, she said without looking back. They evolved to hijack the mating cycles of other species. Once they detect a partial imprint, especially one involving a high-sensitivity species like mine, they can intervene. They override the bond chemically, physically. If it gets close enough, it can force the imprint to lock onto it. Permanently, I felt like I'd been punched. "And you'll forget me." She stopped so suddenly I nearly ran into her. Her hand shot out and grabbed my chest, fingers splayed against my heartbeat. Her eyes were fierce, shining with that violet heat I was starting to recognize as something deeper than lust. "No," she said. "That's the problem. I won't. It'll take the bond, but it can't erase the memory. I'll remember it was you, and it'll feel like a phantom limb I can never regrow." I didn't have words for that. Just heat, rage, fear. She turned again and moved faster, dragging me down a narrower corridor. At the end was a reinforced maintenance hatch. She slammed her hand against the scanner. It buzzed red. "Damn it! What's wrong?" "Security override failed. It's locked out from the mainframe breach." She stepped back, eyes scanning the corridor. "I'll have to reroute power manually. Give me your shirt." "What?" I blinked. "Why?" "No time. The Zarnak can smell imprint pheromones. Mine are saturating you." I yanked the shirt off. It was sticky with sweat, and something else. Something that smelled faintly of ozone and honey. Her scent. Talia pulled a vial from her field kit, quickly injecting it into the synth fabric. The material fizzed, then hardened into a rough, sticky gel. She slammed it against the side of a control panel and began rewiring it on the fly, using my shirt like a temporary circuit patch. "You're MacGyvering us out of this with my t-shirt," I said in disbelief. "Don't flatter yourself," she shot back, a flicker of that old smirk breaking through. "Your cotton blend is still inferior to our standard bonding gels." There she was, the real Talia, buried under layers of adrenaline and protocol, but burning bright. The panel sparked, lights flickered, and the hatch groaned open. She shoved me through. Down the ladder. "Go!" I scrambled into the shaft, metal rungs rattling underfoot as I descended. Above me, the sound of something massive echoed through the tunnel. The air changed, turned heavy. Talia dropped in after me, just as a shadow passed over the grating. I saw it for a split second. 6-limbed, black-scaled, its body flexing like it was inhaling the entire corridor. A long, sinewy neck. No visible eyes. Just a mouth. And many teeth. We hit the bottom, the lower storage access, unused for decades from the look of it. Dust and vines from invasive flora, curling through cracks in the wall. Talia's chest heaved as she sealed the shaft behind us. We bought a little time, she said, voice low. I stared at her. She was glowing again, not metaphorically. Her skin shimmered with faint heat, and there were golden rings in her irises now. Her hair floated slightly, like static was radiating off her body. "You're overheating." I stepped closer. "Is it the stress?" She shook her head. "It's the cycle. Being near you accelerates it. The closer we get to a full imprint, the faster my body adapts. Right now, it's interpreting your proximity as a cue to finalize bonding." Her voice dropped, hoarse. "If the Zarnak gets any closer, I might not be able to stop it from triggering, involuntarily." "Triggering what?" She swallowed. "The final phase, then, softer. Mating lock. Once it happens, my biology will demand completion. Total union. There's no pulling back from it once the signal fires. It's like flipping a switch inside my brain, and my body will start producing binding hormones that cement the imprint permanently, with you, or with anything close enough to complete it."